3 years ago, my father-in-law kicked me into the street, calling me the worthless drunk who ruined his daughter's life. My wife, Chloe, handed me the divorce papers with eyes as cold as stone. Tonight, they stand on stage at the Apex Properties Gala, about to be publicly humiliated as their family business is devoured. The CEO smirks, ready to deliver the final blow. That's when I step from the shadows. I'll double his offer, I say, my voice cutting through the silence. The CEO laughs. And who are you? I ignore him, my eyes locked on Chloe's. Her face is pale with disbelief. My name is Liam Lin, I tell the crowd. And as of this morning, I own Apex Properties. So I suggest you get off my stage. They see a financial titan who appeared from nowhere. She sees the ghost of the man she threw away. What she doesn't know is that for me, this isn't about the money. It's about redemption. And I'll burn the whole world down to win her back. The first time he'd entered her apartment after the divorce, it had been a tense standoff. This time, he was sitting down for a peaceful lunch. Liam felt he had taken a giant leap forward on his path to reconciliation. On the way back to his own place, he called Zane Zhou and asked him to prepare the highest quality gifts for the Mid-Autumn Festival. He was going to see Chloe's parents, a visit more important than any business meeting he'd ever had. At the Zhou family estate, the patriarch, Walter Zhou, listened with a smile as his grandson took orders from Liam over the phone. When Zane reported that they had signed deposit contracts for nearly 200 properties at Violet Gold Manor, a glint flashed in Walter's eyes. He clapped his grandson on the shoulder and said just one thing. Listen more to that Liam Lin's advice in the future. And when you have the chance, bring him to see me. Zane stood there, stunned. In over 20 years, it was the first time he'd ever heard his grandfather give such high praise to an outsider. As night fell, Liam had a sweet dream. In it, Chloe had taken him back. The three of them were traveling the world, happier than he could have ever imagined. The next day, September 3rd, at 9 in the morning, the Azure Bay City press conference began as scheduled. When a city leader stood before the cameras and announced in a powerful voice that the southern suburbs would be developed into a modern Azure Bay new area, integrating ecology, technology, and culture, the entire city erupted. In an instant, all eyes were on the land once dismissed as a wasteland. And Violet Gold Manor, located at the very center of the new development map, was transformed overnight from a forgotten reject into the city's most sought-after prize. Liam was sitting in a small breakfast shop, the excited chatter of other customers buzzing around him. He just smiled slightly as his phone began to vibrate wildly. Brother Liam. My brother. You're my real brother. It was Zane, roaring with ecstatic joy. I saw the news. You're a damn god. You knew about the new development all along, didn't you? What are you shouting for? Afraid people don't know you're about to get rich. Liam said, slowly sipping his soy milk. How can I not be happy? Almost 200 properties. The price will at least double now. Dream on. Liam threw cold water on his excitement. Do you have the money to buy all these properties outright? I told you before, we're just using them for a quick turnaround. Zane instantly calmed down, the realization dawning on him. What they held wasn't property, but the exclusive rights to purchase nearly 200 units in the city's hottest new development. These were entrance tickets more valuable than gold. Meanwhile, in the third-floor manager's office at Violet Gold Manor, the atmosphere was as oppressive as a tomb. Wayne Wong stood at the window, watching the line of people that stretched for hundreds of meters below. The cigarette in his hand trembled, dropping ash all over the floor. At his feet were the contracts of over 20 agents who had been brought in just to handle the new demand, their hands aching from signing. Just an hour ago, the board had issued a new directive. The prices at Violet Gold Manor were to be raised immediately. The lowest would be $60,000 a square meter, the highest, $90,000. This news should have made him ecstatic, but now it felt like a knife twisting in his gut. Yesterday, they had sold 196 of the best units, the ones with the best locations and layouts, for the bargain price of $16,000. A quick calculation told him the company's direct loss would exceed $1.5 billion. The number was a mountain crushing the air from his lungs. Yesterday, he thought he had landed two big fish. Now he knew he was the fool who'd been reeled in. Urged on by his assistant, he tremblingly dialed his boss, Mr. Chung, at headquarters. Mr. Chung was clearly in a good mood, even congratulating him on his impending promotion. But when Wayne, in a voice as small as a mosquito's buzz, explained what had happened with the 196 units, the other end of the line went dead silent. A few seconds later, an earth-shattering roar erupted. Something this big happened, and you didn't report it yesterday? Wayne was so terrified he started to cry from the sheer injustice of it all. Half an hour later, Mr. Chung called back, his voice cold and decisive. It was a deposit contract, right? The penalty is 3 times the deposit? Call them immediately. Tell them we're willing to pay the penalty to break the contract. That afternoon, Liam once again arrived at the old apartment complex with takeout. This time, he didn't even have to knock. Sophie came running to the door and threw herself into his arms. Chloe had tacitly allowed their daughter to open the door for him. This small change filled Liam with joy. After a warm lunch, Sophie went for a nap. Liam didn't leave. He just sat on the sofa, quietly looking at his phone, as if waiting for a fated appointment. Sure enough, 2 minutes later, an unknown number called. Liam answered, a faint smile playing on his lips. Mr. Lin. It was Wayne Wong's voice on the other end, feigning a warm laugh. This is Wayne Wong from Violet Gold Manor. I heard about the new development in the south. Congratulations. Manager Wong. What can I do for you? Liam's tone was neutral. Wayne's pleasantries were cut short. He cleared his throat and adopted a serious tone. Mr. Lin, it's like this. Our property failed several inspections last night and requires extensive renovations. I'm afraid we won't be able to deliver the units on time. To avoid delaying you, the board has decided to compensate you and Mr. Zhou 3 times the deposit amount, as stipulated in the contract, to terminate the agreement. What do you think? When Wayne Wong's shameless words came through the receiver, Liam had thought he would be calm. He had foreseen this moment, but prediction and experience were 2 different things. A long-suppressed anger still flared in his chest. He instinctively reached for a cigarette, but a glance towards Sophie's bedroom made him stop. He tiptoed out into the hallway, lit one, and took a long drag before speaking coldly into the phone. I'll be transferring these deposit contracts to someone else soon. You don't need to worry about it. Wayne was momentarily stunned by Liam's frankness. He finally understood that he had been played by this young man from the very beginning. Humiliation turned to rage, and he dropped all pretense. Mr. Lin, I advise you not to get any funny ideas. Transferring the contracts privately is against the rules. The group won't approve it. We are being more than generous by offering a triple penalty. If you don't agree, you can take it up with Apex Properties legal department. His form of address had shifted from the respectful sir to a cold, hard you. It was a tone of condescending charity, as if Liam and Zane were just 2 lambs waiting for the slaughter. All right, Wayne Wong. You've got nerve, Liam said, stubbing out his cigarette. His voice was devoid of emotion. I suggest you repeat what you just said to me, word for word, to Zane Zhou. With that, Liam hung up. He knew the storm on Zane's end was about to break. In the Clarity Cafe, Zane was basking in the joy of his impending windfall when an unknown number called. Thinking it was a potential buyer, he answered casually. Is this Mr. Zhou? This is Wayne Wong. The voice on the other end was lazy and arrogant. The group has decided to terminate your contracts. We will compensate you $150,000 for each unit. The payment will be processed within 30 business days. The coffee cup in Zane's hand jerked, spilling hot liquid onto his skin, but he didn't even feel it. After a moment of stunned silence, he shot to his feet, his roar shaking the entire cafe. What did you say? Every head turned to look at him, but he didn't care. Wayne calmly repeated himself, then added impatiently, I've already informed Liam Lin. If you 2 don't agree, you can talk to our legal department. The line went dead. Zane was trembling with fury, his handsome face flushed with rage. A nobody sales manager dared to be so arrogant with him? Unbelievable. Just then, Chloe's number flashed on Liam's phone. Her voice held a hint of concern as she asked him to send a video of Sophie sleeping. The call was like a cool breeze, temporarily easing the heat in Liam's chest. He did as she asked, his heart softening as he looked at his daughter's peaceful face. After receiving the video, Chloe sent back a text, I'll see how I feel. This coy permission completely lifted Liam's spirits. He had just left the complex when Zane's call came through, his voice dark enough to drip poison. Brother Liam, that bastard Wayne Wong. He's treating us like fools. Don't worry about this, I'll handle it. Listening to Zane's fury, Liam just smiled and repeated Wayne's pathetic excuse about failed inspections. Zane burst into a harsh laugh. Oh really? Failed inspections? We'll see just how many things are wrong with his precious Violet Gold Manor. That afternoon, at the Violet Gold Manor sales office, Wayne Wong had his feet propped up on his desk. The morning's panic had been replaced by the smug relief of having averted disaster. He was even feeling proud of himself for saving the company from a huge loss. Suddenly, the office door burst open and his assistant ran in, frantic. Manager Wong, bad news. The fire department is here. Before Wayne could react, a group of uniformed officials with grim expressions swarmed into his office. Leading them was the second-in-command of the Azure Bay City Fire Department, Mr. Han Gongye himself. Chief Han. Wayne was startled but quickly put on a smile. What brings you all the way out here? Mr. Han's gaze cut across his face like a razor. We received a report that Violet Gold Manor has multiple safety violations. The person who reported it said that you, Manager Wong, personally told him about it. Wayne's mind went completely blank. He understood instantly. This was revenge. This was blatant revenge. We have a recording of the call, Mr. Han added, shattering any last hope Wayne might have had. Half an hour later, Mr. Han announced the results of his investigation, his face grim. Until you pass a full inspection, all pre-sale activities at Violet Gold Manor are hereby suspended. The project manager, Mr. Sun, chased after him, grabbing his arm and practically begging. Old Han, why is this happening? You have to tell me what's going on. Mr. Han stopped and lowered his voice. Before you pick a fight with someone, you should find out if you can afford to. Have you not bothered to find out whose city this is? My visit today is just the beginning. Next time, it'll be the housing authority. Mr. Sun's face turned white as a sheet. He staggered back to the office and looked at the equally ashen-faced Wayne Wong. He asked in a dry voice, "Those two who bought the properties yesterday, one was Liam Lin, and the other, what was his name?" "Zane. Zane Zhou." Wayne's voice trembled. Mr. Sun closed his eyes, his face a mask of bitter regret. "The top official in Azure Bay City, what's his last name?" "It's Zhou." Dead silence filled the office. They finally understood. This time, they had kicked a hornet's nest big enough to bring down the entire Apex Properties Corporation. The next morning, Liam's phone rang right on schedule. It was Zane. The rage from the previous day was gone, replaced by a suppressed excitement and deep admiration. They agreed to meet at the Clarity Cafe. When Liam stepped out of his taxi, Zane was leaning against his Audi Q7, looking exasperated. "Brother Liam, I told you to buy a car yesterday. Why are you still taking taxis?" Liam smiled and walked into the cafe, surprised by its fresh, artistic decor. It all made sense when a girl in a simple white dress with an innocent face brought them their menus, smiling and calling out, "Brother Liam." Seeing Zane grinning like a fool in front of her, Liam understood everything. "You like her?" Liam asked quietly. "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak," Zane sighed. "Wait for my call at 7 tonight," Liam said with a mysterious smile. Zane's spirits lifted. He wanted to ask more, but Liam had already changed the subject. "So, it seems you've handled things at Violet Gold Manor?" "As expected of my brother Liam, a true master strategist." Zane lowered his voice, buzzing with excitement. "Chief Han from the fire department led the team himself yesterday. Scared the daylights out of Wayne Wong and his cronies. If they don't give us an answer today, the housing authority is next. These businessmen need a lesson. If you don't show them some teeth, they think you're a pushover." Liam just smiled non-committally and reminded him, "You're a businessman now too." "That's different," Zane huffed. "I make my money with a clear conscience. By the way, brother Liam, I've already found a buyer, a real estate investment group from Lingnan. I'm just waiting for you to set the price." Zane rubbed his hands together, thinking that if they could sell each contract for $500,000, it would be a massive win. Liam took a sip of his latte, then held up 2 fingers. $2 million. Zane choked on his orange juice, his face turning red. How much?" "Don't be so dramatic," Liam said calmly, breaking down the numbers for him. "Our contract price is $16,000 a square meter. The highest price at Violet Gold Manor is now $90,000. Even if we average it out to $80,000, that's a difference of $64,000 per meter. For a 1,200 square foot unit, the price difference is over $7.5 million. If they pay $2 million for our contract, they can still clear over $5 million in profit. You think that's expensive?" Zane's eyes grew wider and wider as he did the math in his head. $5 million profit per unit, times 196 units. That was nearly $1 billion. "I'm not selling." Zane shot up, shouting in excitement. "I'm buying the properties. I'll buy them myself." Other customers shot him annoyed looks, and Zane sat back down, his face red with a mix of regret and frustration. Liam clapped him on the shoulder. "Do you think opportunities like this grow on trees? We don't have that kind of capital yet." "But," Liam's tone shifted, his voice becoming deep and resonant. "The properties are gone, but there are other things." Zane's breathing quickened. Liam's fingers tapped lightly on the tabletop. "In 4 or 5 days, at most, they're going to have a major incident." "Shorting? With leverage?" Zane sucked in a sharp breath. This was far more thrilling than flipping real estate. "Trust me," Liam said, his gaze holding an irresistible power. They agreed to bring Leo Li, Nico Hong, and Hugo Han in on the plan. Liam's reasoning was simple. When he was at his lowest, Leo had never harassed Chloe and her daughter. It was a debt of kindness he intended to repay. That afternoon, Liam brought fried chicken and burgers to Sophie. Seeing his daughter eating happily, her face smeared with grease, all the anger in his heart melted away. This was the entire reason he was fighting so hard. Seeing his daughter eating happily, her face smeared with grease, all the anger in his heart melted away. Back at his apartment, his phone rang again. It was a familiar, yet unwelcome number, Wayne Wong. Liam sneered and let it ring, over and over, until he was comfortably settled back in his own home before casually answering. "Manager Wong? Sorry, I was in the shower." On the other end, Wayne Wong nearly ground his teeth to dust, but his voice was as humble as could be. "Mr. Lin, you're too kind. I'm the one who's disturbing you. With the Mid-Autumn Festival coming up, the group prepared some special mooncakes, and I wanted to send some your way." "Forget the mooncakes. You can buy them anywhere." Liam's tone was dismissive. "Please, Mr. Lin." "All right. Manager Wong is a busy man, and I have things to do. I'm hanging up now." With that, Liam ended the call, repaying Wayne in full for the humiliation he had dished out the day before. In his office at Violet Gold Manor, Wayne listened to the dial tone, his face a mixture of green and white. Beside him, the president of Apex Properties, Mr. Chung, looked on with a thunderous expression. At 3 in the afternoon, there was a knock on Liam's apartment door. Outside stood Wayne Wong, laden with bags of Mao Tai, premium cigarettes, and bird's nest soup. Everything but the mooncakes he had mentioned. His face was plastered with a fawning smile, all traces of yesterday's arrogance gone. Liam let him in and watched with amusement as the man stood awkwardly in his small apartment. Mr. Lin, this is just a small token from the group. Please don't refuse, Wayne said, placing the gifts down and bowing so low his back was nearly parallel to the floor. Weren't there supposed to be mooncakes? Liam asked with a smirk. Wayne's face fell, and his voice cracked. Mr. Lin, please, have mercy on me. Just let me off this one time, please. What are you talking about? Liam tilted his head, his eyes suddenly turning cold. As I recall, Manager Wong was quite arrogant yesterday, threatening to have Apex Properties' legal department deal with me. Shouldn't I be the one begging for mercy? Wayne Wong stood before Liam, practically bent in half, his posture utterly subservient. The arrogant sales manager from yesterday was now a defeated rooster, stripped of all his fight. Mr. Lin, I was blind yesterday. I didn't know who I was talking to when I said those foolish things. I came here today specifically to apologize. Liam leaned back on his sofa, holding a glass of water, his eyes filled with undisguised mockery. A big shot like you needs to apologize to me? It's just a penalty of $150,000 per contract. Apex Properties is a huge company. They can afford it. And your legal department is so powerful, I wouldn't dare dream of taking you to court. Every word was a needle piercing Wayne's heart. He was drowning in regret. If only he had been a little more polite yesterday, he wouldn't be in this humiliating position. Mr. Lin, you're a reasonable man. Let's just be frank. Wayne took a deep breath, his voice pleading. We've seen what you can do. The fire department has shut down our sales, and every day we're closed is a huge loss. Chief Han has already said that if we don't learn our lesson, the housing authority is next. The group's decision is to honor the contracts. The price will be as agreed. We will give you and Mr. Zhou the green light on everything until you're both satisfied. I was in the wrong. I'm just begging you, please, call off the dogs. Liam smiled faintly. You'll have to take that up with Zane Zhou. I have no control over it. Mr. Lin, Mr. Zhou listens to you. Does he? Liam finally relented with a shrug. Fine, I'll give him a call. But he has a fiery temper. I can't guarantee anything. Wayne felt as if he'd been granted a pardon. He thanked Liam profusely and practically fled the apartment. Liam watched his retreating figure, then glanced at the pile of expensive gifts by the door, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. He immediately called Zane and gave him the authorization to contact the investment group, initiating the final step of cashing in their fortune. The next morning, at Old Yang's breakfast shop, Liam was leisurely eating a fried dough stick when the old TV in the corner cut to a news bulletin. According to the Valenian Meteorological Bureau, at 7 a.m. this morning, a rare thunderstorm occurred in the region, with waves reaching up to 50 meters. Our country's large cruise ship, the Poseidon, was caught in the center of the storm. Liam smiled to himself. Right on cue, his phone rang. It was Hugo Han, his voice filled with the terror and reverence of a man who had just cheated death. Mr. Lin, I have no words to thank you. If it weren't for you, I might have been. Liam didn't confirm whether Hugo would have been one of the victims. The silence was a more powerful answer than any words. At 9:30, Zane's Audi Q7 pulled up to the shop. He was beaming, recounting his heroic exploits from the night before that had won him the girl's affection. Soon, a brand new Bentley Bentayga arrived, and a large man weighing over 300 pounds, Axel Zhao, stepped out. Right there, in the humble breakfast shop, the three men discussed a deal worth hundreds of millions. Axel was smart. He didn't complain about the setting. Instead, he ordered the same simple breakfast and ate with gusto, a clear sign of respect for Liam. Only after the meal did he casually bring up the fire department's shutdown, attempting to use it as leverage to lower the price. Liam just smiled and casually attributed the incident to Manager Wong not knowing how to behave, while implying that Chief Han was simply enforcing the law impartially. A shiver ran through Axel's large frame. He immediately understood the powerful connections these two young men possessed and dropped any thought of haggling. $2 million per contract, Liam stated his price. Zane's heart was in his throat, terrified the price was too high. To his surprise, Axel nodded as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. That's a reasonable price. It's a deal. Let's go handle the paperwork now. The rest of the process was unbelievably smooth. Wayne Wong personally received them, his deferential attitude making Axel's respect for them grow even deeper. The transfers and contract signings were completed in one go. When the bank notification for the deposit arrived, Zane stared at the long string of zeros, then grabbed Liam in a bear hug and planted a loud kiss on his cheek. What the hell? Liam said, wiping his face in disgust. 200 million. Brother Liam, that's $200 million. Zane was as giddy as a child. Liam's own heart was pounding. His account now held exactly $192 million. It was enough for him, Chloe, and Sophie to live comfortably for the rest of their lives. He turned down Zane's invitation to celebrate. When Zane said, "It's just one meal, she can eat by herself at home," Liam's face instantly turned cold. Zane flinched and quickly apologized. Liam got some takeout and went to the old apartment complex. Watching his daughter devour her food, he took out his phone and dialed Chloe's number. Watching his daughter devour her food. "I have something to tell you." Liam's voice was a bit hoarse. "This morning, I made close to $200 million. There was a long silence on the other end, then Chloe's trembling voice. "Why are you telling me this? It has nothing to do with me." "It has everything to do with you," Liam said softly. "The moment that money hit my account, the first person I wanted to tell was you. I used to dream of giving you everything you wanted, and then reality broke me. I was a bastard. I don't dare ask for your forgiveness. I only ask that you stop pushing away the good I'm trying to do for you and Sophie. Can you do that?" "Liam, you're right. You are a bastard." Chloe screamed the words with all her might, her voice filled with endless grief and long-suppressed sobs, before abruptly hanging up. Liam held the phone, but he was smiling. He knew that the iceberg was finally starting to melt. That afternoon, Zane delivered the lavish gifts he had prepared. Liam carried the heavy bags and took a taxi to a neighboring county. The autumn evening air was cool, and as he stood downstairs from his former in-law's apartment, he shivered for no reason. With the resolve of a man walking to his own execution, he climbed to the 5th floor and knocked on the familiar, yet foreign door. The door opened. His former mother-in-law, Lydia Liu, stared at him, her face a mask of panic. Liam took a deep breath and spoke softly. "Mom." That single word, "Mom," was like a stone dropped into a stagnant pool. The woman in the doorway, Lydia Liu, went pale, her expression shifting from confusion to terror. She didn't see the expensive gifts in Liam's hands. Her mind was consumed by a single thought. "He's here to cause trouble again." "Liam?" Her voice was dry and trembling. What are you doing here?" She forced herself to remain calm, but her body instinctively blocked the doorway, afraid to let this omen of misfortune step inside and disturb the meeting between her son, Caleb, and his prospective fiancé. The memories of years of chaos flooded her mind. "Mom, Liam, you and Chloe are divorced. Please, stop coming here and bothering us, can't you?" Lydia interrupted, her tone pleading. She fumbled for her phone as if trying to ward off a plague. "Is it money you want again? I'll give it to you. Aaron just got his pension check the other day. You can have it all." Seeing the face that was once so kind now twisted in fear, Liam felt his heart being squeezed by an invisible hand. He spoke quickly, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Mom, I don't want money." "Then what do you want?" Lydia looked up sharply, her eyes red as years of suppressed pain and anger finally erupted. "Liam, after all these years, you've nearly driven Chloe's father to sickness. What is it you want? Will you only be satisfied when you've pushed our entire family to its breaking point?" Every word was a branding iron searing his soul. He knew any explanation would be useless. He quietly placed the bags and boxes on the floor by the door and said in the softest voice he could manage, "Mom, I didn't come to cause trouble. The Mid-Autumn Festival is coming up. I just wanted to bring some things for you and Dad. I hope you're both in good health." He turned to leave. Only then did Lydia notice the beautifully packaged gift boxes on the ground. Moutai, premium cigarettes. She couldn't believe her eyes. This deadbeat, who only ever took money from their home, was actually bringing them gifts? "Stop," she called out instinctively. "Where did you get the money?" The question wasn't born of greed, but from a mother's deepest, most primal worry. Liam's eyes instantly welled with tears. "Mom, don't worry. I earned it legally." As they stood there, an angry voice boomed from inside the apartment, and his former father-in-law, Aaron Shun, appeared in the doorway. The moment he saw Liam, the pleasant expression on his face clouded over. "You bastard, you still have the nerve to show your face here." Aaron Shin charged out, Lydia unable to hold him back. He aimed a vicious kick at Liam's shin. Liam stumbled, nearly falling down the stairs, but he didn't dodge or retaliate. He just stood there silently, taking it. Aaron froze. The Liam he remembered would flip a table at the slightest provocation. When had he ever been so passive? He kicked him again, and again, Liam stood his ground. The silent endurance only made his own rage feel impotent. "You bastard," Aaron finally gasped, pointing back inside. "Look what time it is. Get in here and eat." That dinner was the most agonizing meal of Liam's life. Across the table, his former brother-in-law Caleb's eyes were like daggers, his words dripping with sarcasm. "Out of money again. Came here for a free meal, huh? What a buzzkill. Why did you let this thing in?" With every insult, the air grew heavier. The bowl and chopsticks in Liam's hands felt like lead. Lydia's specialty dishes tasted like ash in his mouth. Finally, as Caleb's taunts escalated to a roar, Liam stood up and bowed deeply to the entire table. "I'm sorry." Then he turned and walked out. Behind him, Caleb's angry shouts followed. "What a great actor. You know how to apologize now." Liam leaned against the cold railing in the stairwell, gasping for air. The door opened, and Aaron Shin came out. He handed Liam a cheap, $11 pack of Peace brand cigarettes. The first time you came to our home, you brought this brand, Aaron said, his voice weary. After you got married, I had to start buying them for myself. Liam's heart clenched. Your mother and I are old. We're not asking for a luxurious life. We just hope that from now on, you'll stop bothering Chloe and Sophie. There was no anger in Aaron's voice, only the profound plea of a father. Liam was silent for a moment. Then he said, Dad, can I borrow your phone? He took the phone from Aaron's confused grasp and transferred $2,000 to his WeChat account. I know you won't believe any explanation I give, Liam said, handing the phone back, his gaze firm. So, I'll prove it with my actions. The Liam Lin you once had high hopes for his back. As Liam's figure disappeared down the stairs, Aaron Chin stared at the large sum on his phone screen for a long, long time. Back inside, Caleb immediately pulled out his phone and called Chloe on speaker to complain. Sis, that dog came to our house just now, brought a bunch of fake stuff to try and trick Mom and Dad. Chloe's voice on the other end was calm. How do you know it's fake? He gave me $10,000 a few days ago to pay back our relatives. The three family members were stunned into silence. Sis, why are you lying for him? Caleb's tone was full of disapproval. I'm not lying. Chloe's voice suddenly rose, thick with a suppressed anger. And that's enough. His name is Liam Lin. Stop calling him a dog. The call ended abruptly, leaving the room in a dead silence. Caleb was dumbfounded. It was the first time his sister had ever spoken to him so harshly, and it was in defense of the man he hated most. Just then, Aaron Chin silently held up his own phone. On the screen, the $2,000 transfer was clearly visible. Back in his lonely apartment, Liam could still smell the gunpowder-tinged aroma of dinner from the Chin's home. He sat on the edge of his bed, a whirlwind of emotions inside him. Though his brother-in-law had insulted him relentlessly, his former father-in-law's final, earnest words, and the shock from the $2,000 he'd transferred, made him feel the trip was a huge success. The iceberg was melting. Just then, his phone screen lit up with a name that made his heart skip a beat. Chloe Chun. You went to my parents' house. Her voice on the other end had lost its usual iciness, replaced by a subtle softness. I did, Liam said, suppressing his elation and forcing a calm smile into his voice. It went great. They even had me stay for dinner. There was a few seconds of silence, then a gentle, slightly chiding response. You liar. Liam practically leaped off the bed. Chloe, are you worried about me? My mom told me everything. Chloe's voice was full of undisguised concern. Caleb yelled at you, and you barely ate anything before he kicked you out. So what should I do? I'm starving now. Liam immediately played along, his voice as pitiful as a child's. Chloe knew he was faking it, but she couldn't help but let out a soft huff. Sophie misses you. We have some leftovers. You can come over and eat if you don't mind. When the call ended, Liam felt as if every dark cloud in his world had vanished. He rushed back to the old apartment complex with a speed he didn't know he possessed. The door opened, and he burst in like a gust of wind, nearly knocking over the plate Chloe was carrying. Daddy! Sophie's cheerful cry was music to his ears. Liam looked at the steaming plates of scrambled eggs with tomato and stir-fried pork with green peppers, then at Chloe's slightly flushed face. He grinned. Someone on the phone mentioned only leftovers. Chloe shot him a glare, but the charming look in her eyes made Liam's heart melt. He was genuinely hungry. He grabbed a steamed bun and devoured it. The familiar taste was the taste of the home he had longed for. After he had polished off everything, Liam patted his full stomach contentedly. In the kitchen, Chloe stood with her back to him, a smile she wasn't even aware of playing on her lips. After washing the dishes, Chloe came out of the kitchen and stopped, a dazed look on her face. Liam was on all fours on the living room floor. Little Sophie was riding on his back, waving her hands and shouting in her sweet, high-pitched voice, Giddy up, go faster, horsey. Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing the father and daughter in a warm, golden light. In that moment, an emotion called happiness wrapped itself around Chloe, sharp and clear. It was the first time since their marriage that she had ever truly felt its presence. Mommy, come on. Let's ride the big horse together. Sophie's call broke her reverie. Liam turned his head, his eyes full of expectation. Chloe's cheeks flushed. She quickly made an excuse for Sophie to get down, but her heart was pounding uncontrollably. That $10,000 you gave me, I've paid back our relatives, she said, trying to sound casual as she changed the subject. As you should, Liam said, getting up from the floor and naturally picking up her phone. Let me transfer you some more money. Part of it is to repay favors. The rest is for Sophie's expenses. He expertly typed in a sequence of numbers, and the screen unlocked. Liam's movements paused, his voice turning complex. You still haven't changed the password. Chloe's phone password had always been his birthday. Too lazy to change it, she said, avoiding his gaze. It wasn't until 9 that night that Liam finally left, with Sophie bidding him a reluctant farewell. Before he left, he knelt down and said seriously to his daughter, Protect Mommy at home. Don't let any bad guy steal her away. You and Mommy belong only to Daddy. Back in his apartment, the warmth of the evening still lingered, but the smile on Liam's face had sharpened. He dialed Zane Zhou's number, his voice returning to the cool, decisive tone of a businessman. Are the traders ready? All set. Just waiting for your order, brother Liam. Listen carefully. Liam's voice was devoid of emotion. The Nasdaq opens in the early morning. No need to rush. Wait until 3 a.m., when Spirit Motors stock will peak, hitting around $900 a share. At that exact high point, use all our funds and the highest leverage possible. Short it with everything we have. In a luxurious villa, Zane listened, his eyes glowing with a feverish light. Beside him, 3 top traders exchanged glances. One of them, his college classmate Austin Sue, couldn't help but speak up. Zane, are you crazy? Spirit Motors is a global giant, and its stock is soaring. You're throwing money into a bonfire. Zane just smiled mysteriously, already picturing the looks of regret on their faces. Time ticked by. The green line on the computer screen shot upwards, just as Austin had predicted. At precisely 3 a.m., the stock price of Spirit Motors stabilized at its limit up, $900 per share. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Austin stared at Zane in astonishment. Zane just grinned and waved his hand. Go. Meanwhile, in Europe, Hugo Hahn had just concluded his own romantic calamity. He had seen through his rival's cheap honey trap and now held the evidence firmly in his hands. His reverence for Liam had grown into a torrent of awe. On September 6th, at 8 in the morning, a piece of news spread like a virus across the globe. Spirit Motors, the titan of new energy vehicles, had experienced a fatal flaw in its self-driving system, resulting in the death of a driver on the highway. The news sent shockwaves through the market. Countless negative stories about Spirit Motors resurfaced, and public outrage was deafening. Yet the arrogant giant remained silent. It seemed the loss of one life meant little to them. That night, when the Nasdaq opened, the stock price of Spirit Motors fell for the first time since its initial public offering. It was only a drop from $900 to $874. But to Zane and Austin, it was the prelude to a hurricane. Austin looked at the confident Zane, only one thought in his mind. How did he know? On September 7th, at the Clarity Cafe, Zane stirred his juice, his eyes flashing with a mix of excitement and confusion. Brother Liam, Spirit Motors stock has dropped, but it doesn't feel like the crash you mentioned. Is the real show yet to begin? You're not as dumb as you look, Liam said, taking a sip of his coffee with a mysterious smile. Are you free tomorrow? Want to take a trip to Seascape City? Seascape City? Zane was taken aback, then realization dawned. The International Auto Show tomorrow. Brother Liam, are you saying there's going to be a show there? Not just a show, Liam raised an eyebrow. A grand performance that will knock Spirit Motors off its pedestal for good. Meanwhile, at Trident International's project department, Chloe was enjoying a rare moment of peace when she overheard the barbed whispers of her colleagues. Ever since she'd taken over several major projects, rumors about her climbing the corporate ladder by cozying up to Mr. Hahn had been relentless. Her best friend, Sarah Shun, was ready to defend her, but Chloe just smiled calmly. I kind of like watching them, so jealous they can't stand me, but completely unable to do anything about it. Sarah looked at the happy glow on her friend's face and was shocked to realize that the woman who had been so worn down by her marriage was now acting like a girl in love again. When Sarah brought up her bastard ex-husband, Chloe actually frowned and corrected her. He's not a bastard anymore. Just as Sarah was convinced Chloe had been bewitched, Hugo Hahn's call came in. Chloe, right in front of Sarah, put the call on speaker. Chloe, my dear. Hugo's voice was so polite, it was almost fawning. I was hoping to give you a few days off for a business trip to Seascape City. I've already booked your flight. It's for 3 this afternoon. The conversation left Sarah utterly speechless. She finally believed that there was nothing untoward between Chloe and their boss. After hanging up, Chloe immediately dialed Liam's number, a hint of playful annoyance in her voice. What are you up to now? My dearest Chloe, please, have mercy and give me a chance. Liam's voice, half pleading and half flirting, made the smile on Chloe's face impossible to hide. It also made it clear to Sarah that the only person who could make her friend shine again was the same man who had once broken her heart. At 2 that afternoon, downstairs from the apartment complex, Liam was carrying new clothes he'd bought for his wife and daughter when he ran into Mrs. Wong. The old woman told him conspiratorially that when Chloe mentioned the trip, she was as happy as a child. The door opened, and Sophie flew into his arms with a cheer. When Chloe emerged from the bedroom wearing the new dress and high heels Liam had bought, he was captivated. Her elegant figure and charming aura made him feel like he was falling in love all over again. The family of 3 met Zane downstairs. He had already filled the trunk of his car with toys and snacks for Sophie, calling her his favorite niece and delighting the little girl. The plane landed smoothly at Seascape City's airport. As they walked out, a young man with glasses was leaning against a Mercedes G-Wagon, waving at them. Dexter Xiang, son of the city's top official, Zane explained in a low, complicated tone. Liam was surprised that Zane's network extended this far. However, as they approached, Dexter's attitude was unexpectedly cold and arrogant. Zane Zhou, Your presence truly graces our humble city, Dexter said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. He looked Liam up and down. When Zane introduced him as my brother Liam, Dexter sneered. Just because Zane calls you brother doesn't mean you're worthy of the title from me. My father told me to pick you up, but I'm a busy man. For a businessman, time is money. If you can't give me a good reason why I should let you in my car today, then I'm afraid I'll have to leave on my own. Zane's face darkened, but Liam stopped him before he could react. Liam met Dexter's scrutinizing gaze and smiled faintly. 3 new Mercedes dealerships, all opening tomorrow? Dexter's expression froze. How did you know? How I know is not your concern. Liam's smile remained gentle, but his next words sent a chill through everyone present. You're right, we shouldn't waste your time. So here's a piece of advice. He took a step forward and clapped Dexter lightly on the shoulder, his voice low but crystal clear. That dealership in the Orion district? I wouldn't set off any fireworks tomorrow. Big fire. It'll burn you. In the end, they didn't get into Dexter Sion's Mercedes G-Wagon. Liam simply smiled at the blatant arrogance. He knew that Dexter's cold shoulder today would become a desperate attempt to curry favor tomorrow. Right now, he just wanted Chloe and Sophie to enjoy their trip without any distractions. Night fell over Seascape City, a tapestry of neon lights and flowing traffic. The first hotel they tried, the Majestic, was fully booked. As Zane was talking to the receptionist, a greasy, overweight man with several foreigners pushed past him and rudely told the front desk, "Those 2 presidential suites, give them to us." This man, Liam knew, was the other main character in tomorrow's grand performance. Zane's temper flared, but Chloe and Liam held him back. They didn't want any trouble and eventually found a nice guest house nearby with only 2 rooms left. The night market was a vibrant river of light and sound. Sophie flitted between stalls like a happy butterfly, fascinated by the novel toys and snacks. Liam and Zane followed, buying up half the street's inventory. Chloe watched her daughter's radiant smile, a smile she'd never seen before, and then looked at the man patiently holding their child, his eyes full of adoration. The fortress of ice around her heart was quietly melting. She thought that maybe, just maybe, she was becoming the happiest woman in the world. Back at the guest house, an awkward problem arose. 2 rooms. With impeccable timing, Zane declared he had a strange quirk of never sharing a bed and claimed 1 room for himself, leaving the family of 3 in the other. Chloe's cheeks flushed, but she could only point to the single sofa in the room and tell Liam, "You sleep there." That night, Liam barely slept. Listening to the even breathing of his wife and daughter from the bedroom, feeling the presence of the family he had lost and found again, he was overwhelmed with happiness. At 5:30 in the morning, he tiptoed out to buy breakfast. In the bedroom, the first light of dawn was filtering in. Sophie had kicked and turned in her sleep, pushing Chloe nearly to the edge of the bed. Looking at her peaceful, beautiful face, Liam felt a surge of tenderness and guilt. He knelt down and, on a whim, slowly leaned in, wanting to place a long-overdue kiss on her forehead. Just as his lips were about to touch her skin, her sleepy, beautiful eyes fluttered open. Time seemed to stop. Their eyes met, and the air froze. A dozen seconds later, a shriek pierced the morning calm, erupting from the bedroom. Zane, startled awake in the next room, began frantically pounding on their door. Liam and Chloe both turned beet red, so embarrassed they wished the floor would swallow them whole. Breakfast was eaten in a strange, tense silence. Zane tactfully changed the subject. "Brother Liam, the auto show starts at 8. What time does the big show begin?" 9:30. Liam's voice was calm again, as if the morning's awkward encounter had never happened. "That fat guy from the hotel last night. He's the one in charge of the Spirit Motors exhibit." At 8:30, the Seascape International Expo Center was packed. Liam carried Sophie, with Chloe and Zane beside him, as they wandered between the various brand displays. Sophie was fascinated by the different car designs, and Liam promised with a smile that when she grew up, he'd buy her whichever one she liked. He then turned to Chloe and said her 10-year-old car was due for an upgrade. This time, Chloe didn't immediately refuse. She just turned her head, pretending to look elsewhere, but the corners of her mouth turned up in a slight smile. By 9:30, the Spirit Motors exhibit was surrounded by a massive crowd. As fans admired the new models, an elderly woman of about 60 suddenly scrambled onto the stage and sat squarely on the hood of a display car. Her family members unfurled a glaring banner, "Spirit Motors, poor quality, arrogant and abusive to customers." The entire hall was in an uproar. The woman grabbed a megaphone and, in a clear, impassioned voice, listed the fatal flaws of her Spirit Motors vehicle: system crashes, self-driving stracon, and worst of all, the airbags failing to deploy in an accident. She produced a thick stack of medical reports and repair bills, irrefutable evidence. She tearfully recounted how the dealership had dismissed her claims as improper operation and refused any compensation. Just as the crowd was captivated by her story, a familiar figure appeared, the fat man from the hotel. He stormed onto the stage and did something that left everyone speechless. He grabbed the old woman by her collar and violently dragged her off the car hood. "You old hag. You dare cause trouble on my turf? You must have a death wish." The man's furious shouts boomed through countless microphones. Immediately, security guards clashed with the woman's family, and the scene devolved into an ugly, chaotic brawl. Camera flashes lit up the hall, capturing every second of the absurd and shocking spectacle. Zane and Chloe were horrified. They couldn't imagine a representative of a global giant behaving so atrociously in public. Amid the chaos, only Liam, holding Sophie in his arms, had a cold smile on his lips. He murmured softly, "The show has finally begun." The auto show fiasco ended in a way no one could have predicted. While the crowd was still reeling from the chaos, Liam's phone buzzed with a message from Zane. The stock price of Spirit Motors was in freefall, plummeting from over $800 a share to less than $100. Their initial investment of a few $100 million had ballooned into a staggering $2 billion. While Zane was ecstatic about their massive profit, Liam's mind was on the elderly woman. He asked Zane to send a trusted subordinate to the hospital, not only to cover all her medical expenses, but also to provide her with $1 million in compensation. Chloe, witnessing this act, felt her heart stir. The man before her was no longer the selfish monster she remembered. He was now a man of compassion and principle. Later that day, another piece of shocking news broke. Dexter Xiong's new Mercedes dealership in the Orion district had caught fire due to a fireworks accident during its grand opening. The blaze was so intense that it had completely destroyed the building. The headlines were filled with images of the smoldering ruins. When Dexter called, his voice was filled with a terror that bordered on worship. Liam just calmly advised him to learn a lesson about humility and hung up. That night, as the family of three prepared to leave Seascape City, Chloe suddenly hesitated. After a long moment, she looked at Liam and said, in a voice so soft it was almost a whisper, "Since we're already here, why don't we just fly to Longlight from here?" Liam was stunned into silence, his mind blank. It was an invitation to go home. To his home, with her. In the Seascape City Airport's VIP lounge, the news was playing on a large screen. A reporter was detailing the complete collapse of Spirit Motors' stock and reputation. But Liam wasn't watching. He was staring at the woman beside him, his heart filled with a joy so immense it felt like it would burst. The $2 billion they had just made seemed insignificant compared to this single moment. He noticed that Chloe's expression seemed complicated. When he asked what was wrong, she just shook her head and quietly sent a message to her friend, Sarah Shun. Sarah's reply came quickly. "Are you crazy? You're going to his home? Chloe, don't be stupid. He hasn't changed." Chloe simply replied, "He has," and then turned off her phone, a resolute look in her eyes. Liam, who had caught a glimpse of the messages, understood the storm raging within her. He knew that for her, this decision was a monumental leap of faith. As they were about to board, Zane called again. He was still buzzing from their victory and already looking for the next target. Liam's expression was calm, his gaze distant as he looked at the stock market data on his tablet. He simply watched the chaos at the auto show unfold, his face showing no emotion. He spoke calmly to Zane. "This auto show isn't worth watching anymore. Tell the traders, after the Spirit Motors situation is over, we'll take this opportunity to make another wave with Tesla." Spirit was a short, Tesla is a bottom fishing buy. When Chloe said, "Let's just fly to Longlight from here," Liam felt as if his entire world had exploded into a brilliant fireworks display. A second ago, his heart was pounding from a profit of over $1 billion, but now, all those numbers paled in comparison to Chloe's simple words. He spun around like a child who'd just been given candy, muttering about what gifts he should bring for his parents. Zane watched his head-spinning excitement with a smile and reminded him, "Brother Liam, don't we have people here in Seascape City?" The words snapped Liam back to reality. He immediately called Dexter Xiong. On the other end, when Dexter heard that Liam just needed help preparing some gifts for his homecoming, he practically puffed out his chest and took on the task with an almost starstruck enthusiasm. At 12:30, a Mercedes G-Wagon pulled up to the guest house. Dexter personally opened the trunk, revealing a mountain of premium Moutai liquor, top-shelf cigarettes, and gift boxes of sea cucumber and bird's nest soup. Chloe stared dumbfounded. She clearly remembered that just 2 days ago, this same man had demanded they give him a reason to get in his car. Now, he was holding Sophie, calling her his favorite niece, and acting as close as family. Chloe stared dumbfounded. He was so ashamed by Sophie's innocent question, "Why didn't you let us ride in your car that day?" that he didn't know where to look. When Liam offered to pay, Dexter lowered his stance even further. "Brother Liam, compared to the losses you saved me from, this is nothing. You're insulting me." In the end, with Zane mediating, Liam reluctantly accepted the lavish gifts. Dexter was incredibly attentive, arranging a convoy to take them and their mountain of gifts to the airport, and even calling ahead to the dealership in Longlight to have cars ready to pick them up. Sitting on the plane, flying to his hometown, Liam felt an unprecedented sense of peace, his heart overflowing with a profound happiness. He couldn't bring himself to call his younger brother and sister. It was Chloe who offered, only to find that their numbers were no longer in service. In that moment, A bitter taste, like yellow lotus, spread through Liam's heart. At 7 that evening, their car drove into the familiar yet strange little village. When Liam knocked on his family's door and saw his parents' dusty clothes and their shocked, ecstatic eyes, he felt a lump in his throat. He whispered, "Dad, Mom, I'm home." His father, Aaron Lynn's, scolding was half-hearted. But his mother, Felicity Lynn's, eyes instantly reddened. But when Chloe led Sophie out from behind the door and timidly called out, "Dad, Mom," it was as if the two elders' entire world had been set ablaze with light. Yes, yes. Felicity's tears finally fell as she pulled Sophie into a tight hug. When Aaron Lynn saw the mountain of famous brand cigarettes and liquor his son was carrying in, his joy turned to suspicion and sternness. "Where did you get the money?" he demanded. Liam looked at his father's weathered but honest face and didn't explain. He simply asked, "Dad, even if you don't believe me, you have to believe Chloe, right? If this money wasn't clean, would she have come back with me?" That sentence was more effective than any explanation. Aaron Lynn fell silent and quietly carried the last of the gifts into the house. That night, the Lynn family home was filled with a warmth it hadn't known for years. Felicity made Chloe her favorite meat rolls, and Chloe leaned against her mother-in-law like a daughter, eating with relish. Watching the scene, Liam felt the weight of his past sins grow even heavier. After dinner, Aaron Lynn called his younger son, Ethan. Liam took the phone, and, hearing his brother's surprised voice, the guilt that had been buried for years finally erupted. "Ethan," his voice trembled, "I took the money for your wedding and gambled it all away. Don't you? Don't you hate me even a little?" Everyone in the room went quiet. On the other end, Ethan was silent for a moment, then let out a carefree laugh. "Why would I hate you? You're my brother." Those 4 simple words were a sledgehammer that shattered all of Liam's composure. He couldn't hold it in any longer. He ran out into the cold courtyard and slammed his fists into the hard ground, letting the rough stones scrape his skin and draw blood. He hated himself, the drunken, inhuman version of himself, the version that had let down everyone who loved him. A moment later, a pair of gentle hands softly covered his bleeding fists. Chloe had quietly come to stand behind him. "It's all in the past," she said softly. Liam shot up and pulled her into a fierce embrace. Then, like a long-lost child, he buried his face in her shoulder and began to sob uncontrollably. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to you and Sophie. I'm sorry to Mom and Dad. I'm sorry to Ethan and Clara. I'm sorry to everyone. Liam Lynn, I'm sorry to all of you." Chloe didn't struggle. She just stood there, letting his tears soak her clothes. Once, he had been the shoulder she leaned on. Now, she had become the safe harbor where he could anchor all his pain.